right, so welcome. Thanks for joining us on your education, episode number 3. So we are here to talk about the athlete's guide to protein.
Yes.
So very exciting. And thanks to David for sending in your question, which inspired this vlog. So if you guys have any questions or anything that you want us to address, make sure to hit us up on Facebook or put your comments below, shoot us an email, send us a tweet, all that fun kind of stuff. So I'm Chris, and this is Sarah. We are the registered dietitians and certified sports nutritionists at the Endurance Edge. And again, we are here to tell you all about protein.
Yes. So first we're just going to kind of start off with some of the basics. We're going to talk a little bit about the functions of protein and why we need it in our diet. So it'll help you better understand how much and where to get it from and things like that. So protein, everybody thinks protein, building muscles, building that lean body mass. It also is actually important for a few other things. It does help us with immunity, so it helps build antibodies, which help immunity, helps us from getting sick.
Yep.
It also helps with enzyme function and hormones, and it's also a component of transport proteins and peptide proteins. So these are things like insulin, glucagon, things that help us regulate our blood sugar levels and thus energy levels.
Right.
Kind of another function of protein is it does help keep us fuller longer, because it does provide 4 calories per gram, like carbohydrate, but it is digested a little bit slower, so it stays in the stomach and it keeps you fuller a little bit longer, say it's just an apple.
Right. Yes.
So,
we all know when you eat an apple, you're hungry like 4 minutes later.
Exactly. So if you do like an apple and peanut butter, it's going to extend it a little bit. That
right.
Peanut butter is giving you that protein.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to tell us a little bit about the different types of protein and where we can get it from and some of the sources?
Yes. So you can get them from plant and animal sources. So we've got a really awesome nutrition guide that we give our clients when they come in. And this goes over all of the different sources. So we want to try to encourage people to pick fish and plant proteins first, just from all the research that's been done as it relates to just general health. Because we want, as athletes, we want to be, or not even as an athlete, somebody who is just trying to be healthy, we want to lean towards those types of protein first. So all your fishes, shrimp, cod, salmon, mussels, all those different types of fish, which I have a lot of people who don't like fish.
Yeah, I think it is something that people aren't really exposed to that much when they're younger, so they kind of have to get used to that texture and the taste and kind of develop a love for or like for it down the road.
Yes. And I think a lot of people are also intimidated by how contaminated a lot of our fish sources are, and that's really a whole nother issue. But
yes, that's going to be one of my questions. I mean, we do recommend protein and going more towards the fish sources, but should people be concerned about mercury content, how much fish?
Yep. Yeah, so we get so this is our protein guide. We get a lot of our information from the Environmental Working Group and from the Seafood Guide.
Yes.
The Monterey Bay Seafood Guide. So they actually have a really cool app, and they're all about sustainability, but they also have a piece in there about what's healthy, as well as sustainable and low contaminant. So all of those things are on here. So things like salmon, black cod, sardines.
Yum.
Yeah, people eat their sardines. But things that tend to be higher in mercury, we try to get people to not go for those as much, particularly if you are expecting or if you're nursing. But yeah, mercury is a problem. It's definitely a problem. But anyway, we want to make sure that you're getting those fish-based sources, and then if not, plant-based sources are more like your beans, your peas, your lentils,
your nuts and nut butters.
Nuts, nut butters, seed butters, nutritional yeast, wheat germ. There's all kinds of different really great protein powders out there too that are one of my favorites. That most recent favorite is Protocol for Life. We just got that in last week. It's delicious. It tastes like butterscotch. And it's quinoa and pea based. There's some chia, tempeh, tofu, organic if possible. But there's also your animal based proteins. So chicken, turkey, beef, pork.
Your eggs, your dairy.
Eggs, yep. Yogurt, buttermilk. What are we missing? There's some game meats. Cottage cheese? I don't know why I always leave out cottage cheese. Anyway, there's that too. Maybe because I don't eat a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge cottage cheese fan.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully you guys get some good info from that. Egg whites to poultry sources. So those fish-based plant sources, I cannot speak, plant-based and then animal-based too.
So we've talked about the function so far, we've talked about the different types of sources, but how do we know how much protein we need? Is it based on what we're doing, our gender, our age? Can you talk a little bit about the needs of protein for everybody?
Yeah. So we see a lot of people, we kind of see two different bins of people, if you will. We see a lot of, obviously, endurance athletes. So it's important, obviously, to maintain their lean mass. But we also see a lot of people who are active and they might be endurance athletes and they're trying to lose some body weight or body fat, and then some strength athletes as well. So everybody's going to have different needs. So just keep that in mind, that everybody really is unique depending on what life stage they're in, whether they're wanting to get pregnant, whether they're have issues with, say, osteoporosis, or they're an older athlete, or some teenagers, work with some kids and stuff like that. So everybody's going to have different needs. Now, the MyPlate,
yes,
the USDA recommends that we get 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And keep in mind that there's 2.2 pounds for every kilogram. So I've never recommended that.
And why? Why is that? Can you tell them a little bit about that?
It's just not, just like what you were talking about in terms of the functions, it's just not, it doesn't support lean mass as well as a lot of the research that's out there in terms of the higher amounts. That's more for just sustaining life.
Yeah. More of like a minimum requirement.
More of a minimum requirement, absolutely. And I get why they do that. It's totally fair. But I generally won't put anybody on less than 1.2 grams, and in fact that's usually kind of low. So we do body composition here, so we do body fat using the 7-site skin fold caliper, and that gives us not only weight, total body weight, but also lean body mass. So we'll give people ranges based on their lean body mass as well as their total body weight. So for strength athletes, for example, just in the literature, we've seen anywhere from 1.4 to 2 grams per kg, but even up to 3 grams per kg. So let's take our average 175. We need to name our person. Our 175-pound Joe, who is 79 kgs. So multiply that by 3. That's 238 grams of protein, which is kind of insane.
Yeah,
that's a lot of protein.
I say times 4. How many calories is that?
Yeah, so times 4. So that's 954 calories in just
protein alone.
Yeah. So, but it's possible.
It is.
Yep. So we've seen it in the literature that people can definitely gain lean mass that way, or maintain a lean mass if they're trying to lose body fat. But usually I put people who are trying to lose body fat somewhere around 1.8 to 2. Depends on their need. It's also total calorie needs, right? Because that can sometimes exceed it. Sometimes it's anywhere from 25% of total calories. It could be up to 30, maybe even 40% of total calories. It just depends on which direction we're going with them. Endurance athletes, recommended amounts are anywhere from 1.2 to 2 grams per kg. Again, I usually go kind of in the middle, somewhere around 1.5. That tends to be a place where most people can feel comfortable with their other macronutrients, fat and carbohydrates. Other things that are important to think about is pre and post workout. So when you have your protein, we get this a lot. We get this question a lot, because generally speaking, particularly for strength athletes, they're putting their protein post-workout, where there's actually quite interesting research that points to increased muscle protein synthesis, thus increasing lean mass, pointing to having it before you work out. So both of them are beneficial. And then I also get the question, can you get too much protein? If your body doesn't need it, well, I'll let you go into that.
Okay, I can talk a little bit about that, and then you can kind of touch on some things that I may miss. So ultimately, getting too much protein is only really a huge concern with people who have kidney problems, because the excess nitrogen, which is in protein, and only protein, not carbs or fat, is what puts strain on the kidney's filtering ability. And so when you already kind of have some of those kidney issues, that filtering ability is already strained and decreased likely. So if you're just adding excess nitrogen on top of that, you're putting extra strain and kind of harming your kidneys more so than if you were doing like a lower protein diet. Yeah, you can get too much of anything.
Right.
Thus, it'll be stored as fat. But in regards to too much protein, like Chris mentioned in the literature, she's seen up to 3 to 4 grams per kg. So I think overall, yes and no is kind of the answer, if that is even possible or makes sense. But I don't know if you have a different take on it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You can, it's all working within your sphere of what you're trying to accomplish, and then total caloric needs, and then getting those other macronutrients too. So it's all kind of big picture. It's not just about.
It's not a black and white answer, yeah.
Right, yeah. How's that for being completely...
I know. I don't know if that really helped,
Yeah.
but that's the truth.
Yes. So, and then, say for example, it just makes me think of, we do various types of diets that fit for different people's needs, like ketogenic, for example.
Yes.
There's only 20% of your total calories coming from protein, because when the body is so depleted of carbohydrates, this is a high fat diet, very low carb. Then if you get too much protein, you can actually use that for energy, and that's actually what you don't want to do, so that you're using ketones. But that's, again, kind of a unique situation there. So, but man, there is a lot of research out there as it relates to protein and maintaining your lean mass or gaining lean mass. So we like protein. Yeah. So, but again, everybody's needs are unique based on your lean mass and what you're trying to accomplish. So then there's the question of, and we touched on it a little bit, plants versus animals. And we have kind of a cool little chart here about eat more plants, and basically, so yes, eating more plants is nice for Mother Earth.
It is.
And this is basically the how much CO2 release there is with each different types of plants. But we have a lot of people in here who come in as vegetarians or vegans, or they want to lean that way. So what's the solution there? And this was David's question.
Yes.
Is, should, I feel like the media is pushing us towards more plant-based proteins. Is that right? What should we do?
Yeah, so just a side note, what she touched on about eating more plants is more beneficial for Mother Earth. I personally believe that has just become an issue because of the way we produce our meat. If we were still producing our meat like nature intended it to, out in the wild, going and catching it, eating more plants wouldn't necessarily be as beneficial for our planet.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. It's not that animals are bad, it's just the way in which we process them now. So with animal versus plant protein, it really all depends on kind of your views. Whether you don't want to eat meat for religious purposes, whether it's personal, whether it's texture.
Because that's really kind of weird.
I just cannot stomach the texture of meat. I've been like this since I was a child. I can't take it. Fish, I can do a little bit more because it doesn't really feel as much like meat, like a steak. Yeah. So that's just a personal preference. So I kind of lean towards vegetarian and plant options just because of texture.
Right.
So if you're someone like me, or if you have some other interesting reason as to why you don't want to eat plants, animals, you can definitely have enough protein in your diet eating plants. It just takes a little bit more planning and making sure you're getting in all the amino acids from all different sources, because plants are not the complete protein, so they don't have all of the amino acids and the amounts that we need, versus most of the animal sources do. So you just have to plan a little bit more, take a little bit more time, but it can be done. It's definitely easier to go out and grab a chicken breast or grab pork and have that for dinner and get all your protein that you need. Right. But we also want to make sure that we're getting a good variety. I know a lot of bodybuilders or strength athletes who have chicken every night for dinner, and that's not necessarily better than having a variety of plant sources, because it's not a variety, it's the same thing every single day. So there are pros and cons of both. You just kind of have to figure out what you're looking to accomplish, your views on eating animals and environmental concerns and things like that, and just really make the decision what's best for you. Yep. And then whenever you make that decision, whether it's animals or plants or both, just planning accordingly to make sure you have a variety of sources, lean proteins if you're doing the animal route, things like that. Yeah. So.
And speaking to the amino acids, for example, like from a sports nutrition perspective, Branched chain amino acids are very heavily researched, and your branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine, and really the true rock star in all of that is leucine.
Yeah.
And a lot of those come from milk.
Yeah.
So that can be kind of tough for somebody who's vegan and they just want to completely stay away from milk sources completely for their personal convictions. Because leucine really has been quite extensively researched as it relates to not only energy, being able to provide energy during exercise. And branched chains are great before, during, and after exercise. They taste horrible. They're very bitter. So it's a matter of finding the right source that's not
tolerable.
That's tolerable, yeah. And it foams a lot too, because we'll sometimes have it put in sports drinks, and people sometimes don't like that foaming action. So anyway, so that's definitely something to look at a little bit more deeper if you are leaning vegetarian or vegan, to make sure you're getting enough of those specific amino acids that are applicable to your athletic needs.
Yes.
So, and creatine's another one.
Yes.
So I love creatine. Creatine's fabulous. Great for strength athletes. But when you're not eating animal proteins, your baseline creatine is reduced. So that could be a need to do additional supplementation, which is pretty easy.
Yeah, and you actually might have more of an impact from the supplementation if your creatine is lower.
Yep.
So
So
interesting.
Yes, it is. Science.
I know.
Science is so fabulous. Other potential issues with vegetarian or veganism other than just protein, because I feel like that's such a big.
Yes.
It can sort of shift all of your macronutrients, so carbs, fat, protein. People tend to lean a little bit higher carb or junk food. Man, we see a lot of junky vegetarians.
Yeah, so, I mean, being vegetarian, it takes a little bit more planning and thought, I believe, than someone who is omnivorous and eats both animals and plants, because you tend to lean, vegetables are carbohydrates, so if you're vegetarian, your carb intake's gonna just fundamentally increase.
Yep.
And also people tend to lean more towards prepackaged food because they don't know what to cook, or they don't know how to replace the chicken in their meal, or they don't know how to replace the milk that was in their one recipe, so they just kind of lean to more the convenience side.
Yeah.
So, vegetarians, I'm not knocking it because I'm a vegetarian, but you just have to think about a little bit more and be a little bit more smart about your choices, and not kind of lean more towards those junk foods and only eating vegetables all day long, because that's not going to be great for you either. We have 3 macronutrients for a reason. They each have their function, and we kind of need them all, and they all serve a purpose. So
yeah, and then they have various micronutrients and other nutrient profiles, amino acid profiles, etc., etc.
Yes.
So yeah, it's really, again, just kind of like you said, personal preference, personal convictions. We can work with anything.
Yes.
It's just a matter of how dedicated are you, how much time do you want to spend in the kitchen. I would also say seeking out good sources of good quality plants and animals.
Yes.
Organic versus inorganic, and again, that could be a whole different topic. And then there are so many farms around here, but we're really lucky in North Carolina to have a ton of different options for humanely raised animals, so that you can at least talk to your farmer and decide whether that type of meat is raised in a way that you support, so that you feel comfortable eating it. And oftentimes it tastes better.
Yeah.
So anyway, we kind of covered a little bit of everything.
We did. It was a lot.
That was a lot. Yeah, and there's a whole lot that we didn't cover.
I know. I had to bite my tongue on a few things because I could talk for hours about certain subjects.
Yes. So if you need help determining how much protein you need or where it needs to come from, you can always book a free discovery session with us. My email is Chris at the Endurance Edge. Sarah's is Sarah at the Endurance Edge. With an H.
Yes.
And this is really where we shine, is trying to help people determine exactly their needs. Because there could be some medical nutrition therapy or some, which is what registered dietitians do, is provide medical nutrition therapy. But also, you know, it depends on somebody's blood work, on their labs. You know, if somebody is, you know, like you said, might have kidney issues, usually we don't tend to see that.
Yeah, that's more so
population, but you know,
problem.
yeah, it's like, say if somebody is anemic, how do we support their vegetarian or veganism and make sure that they get enough iron or enough B12? B12 is another tough one, or zinc. All those things are found in meat, making sure that you're getting enough of that. Anything else you want to add? We could potentially go down so many rabbit holes.
Yes, I was just gonna do a little side note. You mentioned that they could come and talk to us, figure out their protein needs. We also can help you planning. If you want to stick to vegetarian or vegan, we can help make sure that you're getting all the necessary nutrients that you need and kind of staying away from that junk food route. So if that's something you're interested in too, doesn't necessarily have to be coming to us for protein help, but just kind of help in planning.
Or proper supplementation.
Yes.
There's so much on the market that's terrible.
Yes.
Not only could it not be what it says it is, but it could be
harmful, expensive.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that you spend your money in the right way, and that you're supplementing safely too.
Yeah.
So we only recommend professional lines that have reached the highest level of scrutiny in order to make sure that it is what it is. So you're not getting any contaminated products, because yes, people contaminate products, which is really screwed up with other medications.
Yeah, it's scary.
Hormones, all kinds of really screwed up stuff. So we're really picky about that. So we try to help people choose the right supplements. Not everybody needs it, but you have to be really well planned, like Sarah said, as a vegetarian or a vegan, in order to make sure that you're getting what you need. So that's really our kind of big picture, is making sure that you're not only getting to your goals and strong and healthy, but also, you know, a normal functioning human being.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing. So again, you have our emails, and if you have any questions or have anything that you want us to go over, leave them in the comments below. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, The Endurance Edge, at The Endurance Edge, and then YouTube, who am I missing? Twitter.
Yes. That place.
Yes, that place. The Twitter sphere. I'm at Coach Chris _RD, and then you can also reach us at Your Edge NC. So yeah, we look forward to our next education vlog, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from you guys. So thanks for watching The Athlete's Guide to Protein, and we will catch you next time.